Commission of Employment Equity launched its 23rd report in Kempton Park Gauteng today. The Commission says over 90% reports came from the private sector. SABC News economics reporter Nothando Magudulela earlier spoke to the Commission's chairperson, Tabea Kabinde.
We are at the Emperor's Palace where the Commission for Employment and Equity released their 23rd annual report. The report saw that a bulk of the white population are still in top managerial positions. But to tell us more on this, I have the chairperson for the Commission of Employment Equity, Tabea Kabinde. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us this afternoon. Tell me a little bit more about this report. What did you find that was interesting that came out of it, especially where we saw that black women are still really not into the top middle management positions?
So basically what the report firstly tells us is that over the years we're seeing the same pattern, that transformation is very gradual and it's at a snail's pace, which then justifies the reason for the amendments for the Employment Equity Act and for dealing with the whole issue of self-regulation, because it is self-regulation that enables employers to do things at their comfort and not necessarily at the comfort of the larger populace. What we're finding is that to a large extent, when we look at training opportunities and skills development, we are seeing that people who have been beneficiaries of training remain beneficiaries of training. And when we ask employers to report on the training that they've done or skills development that they've done, in as far as it impacts on affirmative action, we get generic information. So there isn't a strategic agenda around skills development and ensuring that we develop a skills pool from designated groups, which includes black women, to ensure that they are positioned for promotion in those top management positions.
We also see what is very interesting, that people living with disabilities, they're still very low in the numbers. I mean, 1.2%, that's not really impressive. What are your thoughts around that? And what can employers do to actually really involve and employ people living with disabilities? Because, of course, I'm sure they do have skills.
So the whole issue around disability is two-pronged in as far as I'm concerned. The first part of it is that there is definitely stereotypes around persons with disability. But secondly, there isn't an understanding of the definition of disability as per the Employment Equity Act. The Employment Equity Act is very specific that any disability that makes it difficult for a person to be recruited or promoted into a position then should be reported. So let's take, for example, somebody who has eye problems like me, and I'm not talking that wearing glasses. I'm talking about a particular disability that I have that requires for me to have reasonable accommodation. Employers would not even consider that a disability, but would want to be looking only at visible disability. That's the one part. Now, I referred earlier to stereotypes. And my experience is a lot of people who have disabilities, say, for example, depression, would more often than not report it for fear of being discriminated against and the stereotypes that are attached to certain disabilities. So if I were to make a recommendation to employers, I would say awareness campaigns are critical, wherein employers would educate employees on what is considered a disability, as well as what they're doing to ensure that the environment, the culture of the organization, it embraces and it is inclusive of disability, and then run an audit of disability. One would find that people are more open to declare their disabilities than they currently are. So we do have people with disabilities in our organizations, but these people often don't report it for fear of being victimized or marginalized.